day. My lighting is going in and out. I just love it. Any rate, I thought I would weigh in. You know, I was doing a video earlier, and I got someone came into the studio area and just changed the whole atmosphere. So I apologize for that quick cutoff. I will upload that video because it's going to be a continuance to what I'm talking about now, so that we all know exactly where the Queen is landing and what the Queen has to say about what's going on in Mother Africa. You know, it's just been amazing. I know we've all been in a shock watching the protests and looking at the bombardment that's going on in Gaza. And I had a very near and dear friend of mine that I love so much and have so much respect for. And I asked him why was he weighing in? Would he mind doing a show with me on what's going on? And he, like my brother, Dr. Omar Johnson, said, you know, it's not my fight. I don't have a dog in that fight. I have nothing to say about what's going on over there. And it's very dangerous for people to have a comment on what's going on over there. And I'm like, wow, where is it that we can't have a freedom of speech? But I know we as enslaved, descendants of enslaved people, but I can't even claim that because we were free kings and queens, gods and goddesses long before any of this other nonsense came to be. So I don't believe we have the spirit of fear and the spirit of, you know, them and us and they. It's all the we, you know. But anyway, so they were telling me that they really had no comment on that and they didn't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole. And I said, okay, I got you clearly. And can you give me a reasoning why? And they gave me a nugget and it allowed me to dig deep. The nugget, he said, was that wasn't his fight. He had no dog in that fight. He had nothing to say. So I started doing some research, and he dropped a gem on me and said, what was this area called before they gave it a name of Palestine? Because the Arabic language doesn't have a P. The Jewish Hebrew language doesn't have a J. So, you know, where was all this area called? So guess what? It sent me to go digging deep. That's right. I had to dig a little deep to see what was this area called before, because we all know, and if you don't know, Africa was not Africa. The U.S. was not the U.S. I don't think there's any area on a map that was what it was many, many, many moons before. So I guess 300, 350, I think that's when the Ottomans had this area. I think that's what the information says on Google search. So, and before the Ottomans had this area was called Kudish. Kudus. Check your facts, check the Queen, check it out. So that was what the land was called before the Ottomans came in, and that was where the British and the Arabs was on that land, and the Arabs actually named Jerusalem, and in Arabic, Jerusalem means, and so does Qudus, mean the holy sanctuary. Again, we can make a name up. We can call this area holy and this place unholy. But we look at what's going on now with the Zionists that are going on over there now, and we want to check to see, well, wait a minute, what was this Middle East area called? What was Egypt called? It was called Kemet. Just let me help you with it. That was called Kemet. This was called Northeast Africa. Then it was changed again to what we have now, which is the Middle East. So when we look at all these different top spinning, we come up with a fact that, wait a minute, so these people weren't the original people there. What they call now the Palestinians. They were not there. This was not their homeland. So we can stop claiming this. But now what's going on over there is gruesome and unbelievable. But again, you know, stated with most of our research and studying that you have to be a very heartless and ruthless individual to commit these acts against another people. But what the reading and the information that I received and kept reading through is from Hebrew to Negro. I suggest you get that book. We look at the United Nations. The United Nations says this is barbaric and that it needs to stop. It's a ceasefire. But how did this even get started and why? That's more research that has to be done. So what I wanted to do today was just give a little nugget, and we're going to dig a little deeper, find a little more and a little more and a little more till we get to that truth. We are praying for wars anywhere. We're praying for the victims of wars. We look at what's going on in Sudan. We look at what's going on in Ethiopia. We look at the things that are going on in the U.S. with all of our immigration. We look at where the Hispanics and the Latinx maybe is a proper name. What's going on in the U.S. with these sanctuary cities and where they actually are sending these people everywhere and taking millions and millions and millions of dollars that were earmarked for African American and the Hispanics that are documented, not the illegals that are coming over here. We look at what's going on with our brothers and sisters over there in Russia. We look over what's going on in it's such a contrast from what's going on in Africa and what's going on in Ukraine. I guess Ukraine is a sovereign country. So you're telling me that Sudan is not a sovereign country, to South Africa? I mean, there's so many countries on the continent of Mother Africa. But right now I'm sitting in front of the ancient mirrors that were built. There's more mirrors built on Sudan than that other area, which I'm going to try to make sure I always use the proper name. The Kemetic people is Kim, KMT. So it's not Egypt as we look at it. It's controlled by people that look darker than me, the Nubians. But they were black people. And very dark black people that built the pyramids that we want to call them. The Mears is the proper name. Check out Know Thyself if you want more information on that topic. I also mentioned the book that perhaps you should check out. And maybe you can even get it online. It's The Hebrews that became Negroes. So I understand it's a hell of a read. Also take a look at Frances Cress Wesley information on site. On YouTube, and so she wrote, the ISIS papers. We're going to take a deep dive into that. We also took a look at Mr. Fuller, Neely Fuller Jr., who does his own talk show. Please check him out. He has several books. He's written this book of guide on how to maneuver life in the European-dominated world. They also talk about the white supremacy that goes on in the country, and they're talking about what's going on with the Zionist movement that's going on right now. As we watch Al Jazeera and we watch Democracy Now!, we are faced with some horrendous, painful, even watching it can become painful to your spirit. Because it's like, don't they see what they're doing? But man, let's think back. How many millions of Sudanese have been displaced? They were even called terrorists and they weren't allowed to even leave Sudan when the wars were going on. Then we look at what's going on in Ethiopia. How many millions? I think 3 million people have been displaced. How many people are starving from hunger? No food, no water. Then we look at just yesterday, the flooding in Somalia, where thousands and thousands of people lost their homes, food, shelter. There's so much. And we look at Angola. We look at the DR, we look at Haiti, we look at the Dominican Republic, and we can just the other side of Haiti. There's so much going on in our world. How do we wrap our minds around it and continue to have a happy face and a happy look and keep going on like everything is fine, or do we take a time and pause and talk about it? I don't know what happened on October the 7th, but I know what has happened from October the 8th to November the 7th. There's been a bombardment of mass murder by the Zionist people, and I think it should stop. Actually want it to stop now. I've posted a ceasefire period, um, and that's my thoughts. And so I think I'm entitled to my thoughts. Sure, we have a right to self-defense, but when self-defense goes on above and beyond, what is killing babies in incubators, stopping electricity, stopping fuel that fuels this area? I mean, so as we see this, I've never seen a war in living color like I'm watching this on Al Jazeera News, or as I am following this on Democracy Now! If you want the real truth, that's where you'll go. I know that the Zionists are trying to get rid of Al Jazeera because they don't want Al Jazeera reporting the facts. But what was this area before 1922, or actually 1919? So I did a little research. It was called a Kadesh. It's Kaudus, which is now what they call Jerusalem. This goes back from the population and the statistics of the Ottoman Empire, which was 1855 to 1914. So there was no city called Palestine. So we look over the maps. We've gone and done more and more research. We're looking at, there was no place called the Middle East. And when we go on these ancient maps, we look at just to see, is there a place called Palestine? And that wasn't until later in life, after 1922, I believe that's where it was the British Empire had given and mandated to supervise the region, and they called it the Palestine as a homeland, which was supposedly be for those Zionist people. And then the legal name changed. They changed it over to what it is now. I don't even really want to get too deep in mentioning their names because I'm really not feeling that energy. But I did want to log in. Thank you so much for allowing me to come into your space. Thanks for sharing a moment or two with me. Do your research. Find out what you find out. And look to see what was going on before Palestine was Palestine. Go and look to see what any country that's been named and changed by the British or by the European nations, and see what you find. You may be just surprised in what you find. Remember, we'll keep coming to you every Friday at 5:30 Central Time. We will not be doing this on YouTube because you got to have X amount of followers. Remember to please like and subscribe, and we'll keep bringing